questions and answers. Uh, and please put any questions that you have in the chat area, and we'll get to them if we can at the end of this. So Lisa, why don't you please give us a short introduction of what you do as a technology consultant, and a little about yourself and your company.
Sure. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm very excited to be a part of this conversation. So my name is Lisa. I'm an IT trusted advisor, and I really have a background in working in technology roles that span over a decade. I've spent much of my career in a vendor-facing position, which has really given me a unique vantage point into how I look and work with businesses and evaluate, adopt, and optimize technology solutions. So today I work with organizations to navigate the very consistent evolving tech landscape, helping them to make sense of their options, very much avoiding costly missteps, and ultimately choosing solutions that are going to deliver real ROI for businesses. I'm very passionate about bridging the gap between the vendor and the business's actual needs. So I'm looking forward to this chat with UniVoIP because communication tools are so much more than just a platform. They're more of a business enabler, and getting them right can transform how teams work and how the customer experience happens. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. And yeah, it is about the customer experience. So Lisa, what are some of the factors you believe that have contributed to your success, as a technology consultant?
Well, I think the first factor is being very transparent and honest with my clients. Having a portfolio of over 250 vendors that are very thoroughly vetted, I know how the vendors show up and how they work. And so being transparent and honest with my clients on what I actually see after pre-sales and on the post-sales initiative is very important. So keeping it transparent and being honest is my number one priority.
It's great. So what are some of the strategies you use to find new clients?
I keep it simple. So I am a smile and dial kind of gal. Not only if I'm looking for net new logos or new prospects, I pick the phone up, I smile, I dial, and I set new appointments, and then get a really good understanding of what the client's needs are. And then I begin my vetting process. Now, I also have existing clients that I work with that I also discuss what's hot, what's upcoming, and also that perfect ask for a referral. If you ask, it can't hurt. So I use a mixture of things, but I think what really works is just getting on the phone and putting myself out there.
Wow. So cold calling and then building relationship and referral. So cold calling still works, right? I mean, I admire you for being able to do that successfully. Uh, what are some of your techniques in doing that? You must have a lot of patience.
Patience, sitting here and actually getting through a breath of calls. I like to make myself sit at a desk and get through 100 phone calls before I let myself move. I think it comes down to self-discipline. Being consistent on the value that I offer and allowing the person that I'm talking to or cold calling to say, here's the value I can bring to the business and the services that we offer, and trying to get that value out right away and upfront process, it usually wins it. So cold calling, you may think it's dead, but it's not. And I often apologize right up front. I'm sorry I'm cold calling you. I'll get this over really quickly. And a lot of times that's what it takes. Acknowledging that I'm not probably welcome to call your phone right now, but hey, I've got something that I can offer you that can be very beneficial to the business.
That's great. That is so refreshing, I think, because many of the partners that I've interacted with um, may have given up on that, but maybe you're a living example of maybe they shouldn't. So once you interact with the customer, what are some of the strategies that you use to strengthen your relationships with them, with these prospects and,
Well, I think,
and customers, right?
yeah. I mean, I think the first thing is every relationship forms much better if there's a solid relationship. It's not necessarily just about the professional side. It's connecting on a personal level with people. If you have children, getting to know somebody on a personal level, and then we can cut into the professional stuff. But once we get into the professional, it's more of what's keeping you up at night? What's the pain in the organization? Is it a nonprofit? Are you looking for cost savings? Are you looking, what are you really looking to do? And then let me go out and do that heavy lifting of the vetting for you, let you focus on strategy, and offset that. So it's a trusting relationship. And that really starts by forming that first vendor intro and having a vendor like UniVoIP come and really do a nice job, not only on the pre-sale side, but on the post-sale side. You guys shine as a vendor, and so that's why I always bring you to the table. But that is a big part of developing a trusting relationship is the vendors that I bring forth, if they don't show well and they don't do well, and their solution isn't a good solution, that affects my credibility.
Yeah, no, that's great. Now, I'm not directly involved with some of the opportunities and deals that you've won. I know our channel managers are actively working with you. But one thing I did notice is your diligence. Just by being maybe included in some of the email chains. And um, one of the things that I really liked, the strategy that you use, when you're on a call and you introduce a solution, maybe you demonstrate it, and you work with maybe one of our sales engineers and you do a deep dive. But at the end of the call, you make sure that there is an action item or there's a follow-up schedule, as opposed to saying, well, let us know if anything else comes up. You actually make a point of saying, hey, let's put next week something on the calendar before hanging up. Does this time work for everybody? And we'll come back, and then of course, you'll have an agenda right after the call for that call that you just put on the calendar, right? Can you describe that? How did you come about doing that? That's to me that was a light bulb moment.
I believe in next steps in every opportunity that comes to light for me. The biggest problem that I ever find is if I don't book next steps, then I am almost prospecting again to get that person on the phone, not because what we talked was, not of value, but sometimes we're working with C-suite that are just so busy seeing emails come in their inbox. And so it's so necessary to book next steps while we're live on a phone call. So for me, it's just a part of my day-to-day of what I do, and getting next steps is just, I guess it's Bible for me. It needs to be done. And that keeps the conversation rolling. That keeps us closer to actually the finish line of delivering a solution, a promising solution for the client on their timeline. So I think we always want to take it a step forward as well. When you're talking with a client and a vendor as well, hold that client on after with the vendor, get feedback. Make sure that that client truly understands that I sit on their side of the bench. I am like an employee on their team, and I am just helping them with the vetting process. So I want feedback. And so not only do I set next steps, but I also follow up with my client right after the vendor intro to make sure that they're happy.
Thank you. That is just great. I'm using that right now, and in our meeting, I mentioned that, and I bring you up as an example. So thank you.
Thank you.
On the vendor side, as a technology consultant, I'm sure you work with a number of vendors in different skill sets and different product sets. And what's your criteria in terms of choosing vendors? What's a profile of a vendor that you would like to work with, or that you work with on a regular basis?
Aside from UniVoIP?
Any vendor, yeah.
Well, I guess what I look at when and maybe I make sure I'm answering your question correctly. I vet vendors using budget, using the key solutions that my client is looking to solve. And so I take the portfolio that I have access to, and I really do a comparison to make sure that every box is checked that my client is asking for. But then I go a step further to make sure that the personalities jive, that vendor relationship is actually going to hold true for 3 to 5 years, because these contracts can be long. So I take a checklist of what my client gives me, and I make sure that that vendor fits that checklist through and throughout. And a lot of times I've got a time frame that I want this onboarded. I've got a certain budget that I need this to fit. And then depending, I've got a Microsoft license, I'm leveraging maybe an E3 license or an E5 license, and I like to see that provide me cost savings. Well, I look to a vendor like UniVoIP that says, hey, this is also something that you need for our services, and this is what businesses are already paying for. So it's a perfect match. So hope I answered your question, Dean.
Yeah, no, you did. It's from our perspective, uh, our goal is to ensure that our partners are successful. We view our partners as our customers. So we want to provide them as much resources as they need, and support them through the entire process, and be very transparent with them. And working with you has been a pleasure, and I hope we continue to have that relationship. And uh, it's great. So let's shift to the market. I know you've been active introducing your prospects to Microsoft Teams phone system, but in general, what are the shifts you see in the market, the traditional UCaaS or VoIP solutions versus Microsoft Teams phone system?
Yeah, great question, Dean. What I'm really seeing is the shift is accelerating. Many organizations already rely on Microsoft for productivity. So to them, Teams is just a natural extension for voice. Really, what it does is it eliminates the app sprawl and it leverages tools that they're already using. So it's not really that VoIP is going away, it's that Teams is becoming the control panel for communication and collaboration.
Yeah, I've always maintained that if an organization is using Microsoft Teams for messaging, collaboration, meetings, file sharing, and everything else with Office 365, there is no need for a third-party phone system. Uh, if that's you, you're using Microsoft Teams productively, yet you're using a third-party phone system, you're leaving money on the table. There's four things that I'll bring up. One is you, on the bottom line, you'll save money, up to 40% savings by using Microsoft Teams phone system and calling plan natively, using an operator like UniVoIP, right? You'll save. But also more importantly, I'm going to say is that you're using one application. You're not using an integration or plugin. You're just using Teams the way it was meant to be, with consistent user experience across all devices. You're just using one thing. And think of what that does to the IT team. They're not having to manage multiple applications, a plugin perhaps, another soft phone, and then Teams on everybody's desktop. Uh, then think of the security posture, right? If you're using Teams and the phone system, there is no other source of truth. There's no some other phone system out there that you have to keep track of. It's all part of the Intra ID, used to be called Azure Active Directory, right? So your security posture improves because you're just using one application, and that reduces your IT overhead costs. I just talked. So these are some of the drivers behind that. Can you talk about what you've experienced with some of the customers that you've helped migrate through that process? From a premises-based UCaaS solution, or maybe even a premises-based communication solutions, and maybe even a UCaaS solution over to Microsoft Teams. You don't have to share any names, but you can talk about the industries and things like that. So
Yeah. I mean, really, it comes down to simplicity, and employees don't have to switch between the apps to make and take phone calls. It's all in one place. You've got voicemail, you've got presence. Where's your team at? You've got call history, and then at the end of the day, when you're traveling, it's all on your mobile device. It's on your desktop. It's in a browser. So for me, it's improving the user experience. It reduces friction, and it's especially distributed amongst teams.
I know you had a client that onboarded starting end of last year, and
Yeah.
it wasn't just about their Teams environment. They had a legacy phone service
Yes, they
that was
did.
all over the place, right? What were some of the challenges during that whole process? They had paging systems. This is a healthcare customer. They had call boxes in exam rooms. They had front desk, and then they had their knowledge workers. How did all of that? You know, how did it get more simple for them in from your lens?
Well, from my lens, the system, their on-premise phone system, was very difficult to track for reporting and what's going on internally. They've got, it's a healthcare focused industry. And so it's really important that there's that collaboration is all under one dashboard. So bringing that from basically in that conversation with the client, how it all came about was just listening to the needs. And the IT director said, Lisa, I just want a native voice team solution that can all sit under one dashboard, that I can get reporting under one dashboard, and that we can work this through, but that we can still allow our current users to use a hard and a soft phone. We need to be able to still do the different paging that we need for our business. And I came to your guys' team and I talked to you and I spoke about their needs. And every single need that they wanted was checked off. And they're a nonprofit. And so cost savings was extremely important. And the business was already leveraging an E3 and an E5 license. So right there, you guys drove down the cost immensely for them. That was huge. The onboarding with this client was very white glove. And it can be an extensive onboarding when you're looking at moving from on-premise over to a Teams environment. And so your guys' team held my client's hand, fulfilled all of the needs that they had, and we have a very happy customer. We actually just met with them today at 11 o'clock, and we got great feedback from the CTO saying, hey, we're really happy. This was a complex situation that Lisa brought the UniVoIP team into, and now we're very happy with it. They're, moving from on-premise to any kind of a cloud environment, it can be a heavy lift. But at the end of the day, it gives you the ability where you have a call center or a contact center, and that contact center goes down because power goes out. We have power outages all the time in Florida. That was a problem that they were having. Well, now when you're using UniVoIP, you don't suffer from that problem. You can have that agent turned up in any environment that you need and keep the business flowing, keep the phone calls coming in, especially when there are patients calling on mental health and things of that nature. So it's been a really nice transition, and we have a happy client.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the differentials here at UniVoIP, where we fill the gap for where Microsoft may not have a solution for, um, complex solutions like this, door boxes, right? Or overhead paging, virtual faxing, and I know they still use fax.
Yep.
You know, and it has and educating the customer, because there's a lot of ambiguity in Teams phone system. There's some misconceptions about reliability, and if it's deployed right, if they're using best practice, the system is solid. It's backed 5 nines, financially backed SLA. There is no question in my mind that the solution is very stable and reliable. It just has to be deployed in the right way. And there can't be any gaps. And if there is something we can't do today, and believe me, it happens, we will do our best to close that gap, whatever that happens to be. But in this case, this was a very complex situation. The customer was very hesitant and unsure about what this was going to do. And as you recall, Lisa, that I think one of the reasons they finally decided to go ahead and move forward was because we offered them a free trial. Want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I will tell you that your proof of concept that UniVoIP offers is fantastic. It gives the client a really good understanding to dip their toes in. It allows the client to get onboarded, and they don't have to port over their numbers per se in this onboarding process. You can use test phone numbers, but you're setting up your call flows, and it's allowing the UniVoIP team to come in and white glove and get the onboarding started, allow testing to happen, and get you a good feel for if this is going to be a really good fit for the organization, while no pressure is ever added. I like I said, I stay on the client side of the bench, and some vendors, you have to keep them in line. I don't have to do that with UniVoIP. You guys aren't pressuring my client to move forward. It's at their pace and at what that business is demanding. And doing that proof of concept has showed us about 100% close rate. I don't know in my career that I can say I have 100% close rate with a proof of concept. But Dean, I do with you guys, and it's amazing. And Ray and your team, they show up, they smile, and they're truly transparent with what my client needs and the solution that can be delivered.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate the kind words. I can tell you that this energizes us to do even better. The one of the unique things about our proof of concept is that we don't deploy it in some sort of sandbox. It's actually deployed in production. What that means is that if they go through that and build their call flows and test the efficacy of the solution in their own environment, then they're done. The installation is actually done, because the proof of concept, all they have to do at that point is just to initiate a port request, which is we've automated as well, right? So they don't have to redo the installation. The proof of concept is done in production on their actual Microsoft 365 tenant. And when they decide to turn it on, they don't have to do anything. It's already installed.
Yep.
Which I think is a key point in offering proof of concept.
What I'll add, Dean, is that, what's the nicest part is you can set those call flows up with a test number, and then you can port in the number once you're ready to move forward. And it's just that easy. I have had more clients say how easy it is for the onboarding process, and it's just seamless, and it's not feeling like it's intrusive. So
Yeah.
I truly appreciate the proof of concept and the way that you guys focus on that.
Thank you. And so I know we're coming up towards the end of this call. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put it into the Q&A. Nicholas is keeping an eye on that. And if you have time, we'll answer whatever many questions that we can. What future trends do you foresee, Lisa, in the technology consulting space?
To be honest, the future trends in the IT advisory space is really in the space of AI right now. Um, Businesses are looking to automate their workflows in as much ways as possible. And that's where I'm seeing, if you're asking an IT advisor, we're really looking at that shift. And then also any type of way that a business can collaborate and use one tool as their main place for collaboration. So with those two, that's really where the market's hot right now, is one single pane of glass for all of their collaboration. And then people are looking at AI and AI in the contact center to help automate workflows, agents, experience. That's kind of what we're looking and seeing right now.
Yeah, I agree. I'll share a funny story. So our network, our backbone, is built on AI. Of course, back then it was called machine learning.
Yep.
So the marketing terms change, but it's been in place. That's what increases our reliability. So we've got self-healing network. We've got a programmable network that is intelligent, that can reroute traffic automatically, and it can learn, in different scenarios on how to do all of that. Our management application uses AI in many cases. I'll give you a very, very basic example. We require that customers, when they're onboarding, to enter an address. And our solution is global, right? So you can have addresses in Mexico or US or anywhere, right? So we have to have a correct address. We have to know our customers, of course, and when they enter an address, we actually use an AI engine in the background to verify that that is a valid address. It actually looks up multiple different possibilities with underlying databases that we have access to. And so when you enter an address, and if it doesn't understand what that address is, it'll suggest the closest address to that. And like over 90% of the time, it finds it. And you can just say, yes, keep this one. Because you may not have put a comma in there where you're supposed to, right? It figures it out and it puts it in. And as a service provider, we've been leveraging AI or machine learning, for the last decade, and it's time. I think there's definitely a movement in adding automation to your business processes, and I think the next company that's going to be successful in this is a company that actually solves a problem using AI, as opposed to just keep saying AI, right?
Yep.
And they may not even say AI. They might just be solving a repetitive problem that requires human interaction. Well, in this case, it can be automated, right? What things can you think of? I've got a list of dozen things that might be useful. The audience here can think of tasks that can be automated. One thing I do want to mention is that with Copilot, you do get a summary of not just your meetings, but if you have the Copilot license, you can also get summary of your phone calls. So the other day I had a call with one of our VPs, and we were just talking about strategy and action items and things we should be doing. It was a 45-minute call, and I had Copilot on, and the end of the call, I just said summarize the call. Man, it came with like I could have never done that by myself. It came up with, here are the topics we talked about. These are the objectives, these are the action items. It was wonderful, and it was just on a phone call. From that point on, I'd rather have a phone call when I'm talking to somebody about that, as opposed to them coming to my office. It's sad, but it's true. I can get a lot more by doing that. I know we've reached the top of the hour. Lisa, I think we could be talking here forever. I love this conversation. This has been great. I hope others value this. And our goal is to basically do this every month and bring in a different partner and have them share their experiences. I think we can all learn from each other. So thank you again, Lisa. And thanks, Nicholas, for putting this all together.
Thanks for
Thank you,
having
everyone,
me.
for joining.